It's 11:01 now, so I guess at your convenience, Khadiza. I'll just make a mention. Khadiza is joining us to talk about ADHD. She has her own clinic in the Greater Toronto area and with the staff, and where she's kindly agreed. She was at our Christmas luncheon, and she's kindly agreed to speak to us this morning. Um, well, mute just a little bit of protocol. I'll mute everybody shortly after, just to avoid any background noise like we had. And you're welcome to, in the chat, post questions after Khadija's gone through the formal presentation. We'll have a chance to ask questions either verbally or in the chat. Um, so Khadija, at your convenience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me back. My name is Khatiza, and I have my intern Perveen with me as well. So today we will be talking about understanding ADHD in older adults, focusing on signs, support, and resources. Here's a bit of an agenda. So I'll be covering these topics today: myths and facts about ADHD, what ADHD looks like in adults, ADHD in retirement, kind of going through the progression of how do those signs and symptoms look like once we stop working and we're moving on to retirement life. Then I will talk a little bit more about differences between ADHD, normal aging, and dementia, emotional impact of ADHD on ourselves. I will share a bit more about treatment and support. For the treatment piece, Praveen worked really diligently to create that one pager around exactly what are evidence-based treatments that are quite helpful when it comes to managing symptoms of ADHD. So please do take a look at that. And then at the end, I will share some resources with you all and have time for Q&A. And before we get into the agenda, Perveen would like to do a small grounding exercise with us. So I will hand it over to Perveen. She will guide us through it, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. But yeah, kind of like Khadija mentioned, I just wanted to start today off just by sharing a grounding exercise called diaphragmatic breathing. It's also known as belly breathing. So this is a simple grounding exercise that just helps us focus on our breath, and it activates a part of our nervous system that helps our body feel more calm, more relaxed, and just more grounded. So sometimes what can happen is when we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, we tend to kind of naturally breathe into our chest. And this can make our chest feel tighter. It might increase those feelings of discomfort. And so diaphragmatic breathing kind of helps during those moments with the goal to kind of take the breath from our chest into our belly instead. And so we can walk through it together today. And it's something that you can use anytime, anywhere in your day-to-day life. So I just wanted to share it. Um, so I know I can't see everyone on the screen, but let's just start by placing one hand on your chest and then one hand on your stomach. And then as we're going to take the slow inhale in, we're going to try to let our stomach rise, focusing on filling our stomach with the air. And then our hand on our chest, we want to feel it stay relatively still. So we're going to inhale for the count of four. So 1, 2, 3, 4, feeling your stomach expand. And then we're going to exhale for the count of four again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, letting that air kind of gently leave your body. And let's just do this maybe one or two more times together. So again, we're going to inhale for the count of four. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to exhale again for that count of four. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe just one last time. We're just going to inhale again for the count of four. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, focusing on your belly. And then exhaling again for the count of four. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, that's the exercise. It's really nice and simple, and it's a helpful tool to kind of come back to when you need to recenter, when you just want to focus on your breath again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Perveen. Getting our grounding exercise completed so we can go ahead with the presentation. Throughout the presentation, I will share some reflection questions for folks to think about. And if you want to take a note or write it in the chat, you're more than welcome to do so. It's more so for you to think about these things as we go through the presentation. So my first reflective question for you is, how many of you were told you were bright but lazy? And just take a minute for pause for a minute and think of, okay, is that something I've experienced or even told myself or heard other people share that with me? So, when it comes to ADHD, there are lots of myths that we see circulating. One of the biggest one that I've heard through my practice is ADHD is not a real condition. It's a myth. The fact is that ADHD is a neurological disorder, which involves our ability to focus, pay attention, control impulsivity, right? So, in a neurotypical brain, people are able to direct their attention in one task, follow through with it, sit still, focus, complete things, manage impulsivity, such as, I want to do this thing that is really exciting and fun, but instead, I know I have to focus on this boring task and get it done. But when it comes to ADHD, people have issues or challenges around those three main things: attention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. Another myth that I've seen and heard quite a bit is only boys who can't sit still have ADHD. So it's a very small percentage of people that would meet that requirement. However, the fact is ADHD isn't just not being able to sit still. It's way bigger than that, right? It's our ability to plan, focus, execute tasks, follow through with tasks. And for many girls, it's more internalized. So in female or woman, we see that there is a lot of anxiety, restlessness. It may not come across as jumping off the wall, but they do struggle with those challenges. Everyone has ADHD. So this myth stems from the fact around forgetfulness, like everyone forgets or everyone is low motivated to do things. And that is correct to a degree. We're not all motivated to do boring things every day. We struggle with motivation, we forget things, we feel that burnout. But with ADHD, the key is that it is consistently forgetting to do this. It becomes chronic. It's not a one instance or one episode. It's throughout your different buckets of categories around things you do. So, for example, forgetting to do things at work, in your personal life, even engaging in self-care, things related to your children. So, it's not a one instance, it's chronicle and it's consistently forgetting to do things or consistently struggling with motivation, procrastination. People with ADHD should just try harder. Another thing we see or hear quite a bit, and with that, it has nothing to really do with motivation or willpower. Because if that was the case, then a lot of the mental health challenges would resolve on their own. We wouldn't need medication, therapy, or treatment for it. It is way bigger than just motivation or willpower. People with ADHD, in fact, do try harder, do put reminders, multiple reminders on their calendar, phone, and try to make a consistent habit of showing up on time and performing well. With neurological conditions, right, there's only so much you can do, and most people require a little more assistance in helping them sharpen those executive functioning skills. So, what is ADHD? At the core of it, ADHD is seen as a neurological condition that affects our executive functioning system. Executive functioning is comprised of our memory, focus, attention, planning, prioritizing tasks, executing tasks, impulse control, and emotion regulation. So, an analogy I came up with to help you kind of see what does this executive functioning mean. Think about your CEO at Hydra One. They have to show up consistently, plan things, set goals, direct how people are going to meet those goals, how the company is going to run efficiently. They can't just show up one day and be super sharp and then the next few days kind of fall off the track, right? That wouldn't help the company or the employees. So your executive functioning needs to show up, plan, and perform tasks consistently in order for us to see gain and live a meaningful life. And with memory, people who have ADHD tend to struggle around holding information and using information in that moment. For example, oh, I need to go to that other room to grab this printer, but the neuro non-typical brain would, go into the room and kind of just blank out. or go do something else and then start another task, not finish it, go somewhere else, do another thing. And by the end of it, think back to, oh, what was I supposed to grab at the printer? Focus and attention. So, doing things that are not rewarding, right? Doing boring things, following through with it, and actually completing the task. Planning and prioritizing is seen as I need to organize what needs to be done in what priority and how to go about it. So, setting up the steps, right? Like, okay, this step A needs to be done, then B, then C, then D. So, not only planning, but organizing it correctly and completing it. Initiating tasks. So, initiating things that are not very interesting, boring to do, getting ourselves motivated to do them and complete them. Impulse control is around pausing before we act or speak. So sometimes we may notice, our thoughts are just going in circle or we have racing thoughts and we just kind of say it without really organizing them or clearing what our point is. So impulse control helps us kind of take a pause, think it through, be proactive versus reactive. Emotion regulation is around managing our emotions of frustration, feeling overwhelmed, or being reactive to situation. So with ADHD brain, that area tends to have a little bit of a challenge, right? So noticing our emotions come across very intense, or the frustration is very heightened in certain situations. Another example I could share with the folks here is thinking of things like, I know this deadline is important, but I'm unable to start. I know I have to get my taxes in. I'm unable to organize myself to get that ready, to make that appointment with my accountant and submit those things. I want to listen, but my attention just drifts. I want to pay attention to what this person is talking to me about, but I notice my mind wandering, right? Someone might be having a conversation in the background and our mind just kind of goes there and we're distracted. We're unable to bring our attention to the person speaking with us. Planning our day, but struggling to follow through. So writing out, okay, these are the two goals I need to achieve, but come 6, 7 p.m., I haven't achieved it. I haven't even gotten started it. So able to plan it, but the execution piece is following through. Why does it matter now? So for a lot of folks, you've worked really hard your whole life and maintained that structure, maintained that routine, did things for your children, and now you deserve to enjoy your retirement. So that is one component of it that, helping people gain more insight about themselves and understanding what are the areas they're struggling and how to overcome them. So you're able to enjoy your retirement, finish projects that are personal to you, not work related, right? Not kids related, but personal projects that maybe you want to do, follow through with it. Managing finances more efficiently. That's another one to help people with when it comes to the impulsivity, right? Planning and organization. So you're able to feel more confident. Reducing marital tension. We hear a lot in therapy, couples struggle with ADHD and the other partner who doesn't have ADHD can feel quite frustrated, can feel resentment, and that can create tension in the relationship. Improving your follow through. So if you're planning things to do for yourself, right? Like be it attending a gym class or traveling or, completing a task for yourself or picking up a hobby even. So the goal of it is to help you identify what are the challenges you're having and how to overcome them. And most importantly, with retirement, a lot of the ADHD symptoms become unmasked. And the reason being, when we're working, we're on a time crunch, right? So we know, okay, I have to get to work at 8 or 8:30. I have to finish all these tasks today. There's that pressure. We have our one-on-one with the manager. We have a team that we can work with. But when it comes to retirement, that structure is gone, right? We have this free time. We're able to do things on our own. So that could heighten the prioritization, the execution, and the planning. And the other part I wanted to share a bit more with folks was around the symptoms itself. What does ADHD look like in adults? So on the left-hand side here, these are the core symptoms. Difficulty with sustaining your attention, especially on boring tasks. Tasks that are not interesting, tasks that are not engaging at all. You might notice like it's a real struggle to get those things done, unless there is imminent pressure of if you don't get this done, then there's going to be this consequence for not following through. Procrastination, so putting things off. And again, it's not the one or two times where we put things off and then we pick it up later and follow through with it later. It's more chronic, like chronic procrastination to the point where tasks are building up. There's so much to do. The sense of overwhelm takes over. Losing things, so misplacing things, forgetting things, unable to organize things properly to prevent, missing items. Poor time management. This is a very prominent symptom we see where people will share with me, I know I have an appointment at 11, so I plan my day. Okay, I need to wake up at this time, eat, shower, get dressed. So they have it written down, but there comes a point where it's 10:50 and they haven't done anything. They haven't even left the home. So they really struggle with understanding how much time they need versus how much time they have and how to allocate their time to meet that appointment at 11 a.m. Emotional reactivity, so heightened sense of frustration, overwhelm. It's more intense than normal or typical, right? So the frustration is at a higher level. It comes across as very sudden. Impulsivity, so like I mentioned earlier, it's around unable to take a pause, collect our thoughts, think through before speaking. It can also look different in finances as well, where, we think in that moment like, oh, this is something really fun to have without reflecting on, is this the right time to buy it? Do I have the appropriate budget for it? Is this something that's going to cause me financial stress? Versus the ADHD brain would just think, oh, I really like it. It's so exciting. I'm going to purchase it and enjoy it. And the other aspect I see on that is, people will pick up on hobbies, buy a bunch of things to do that hobby. So the excitement is very high and then it just crashes. They will say, I have all this hobby stuff laying around that maybe I touch once or twice. I had a client in the past who said, I wanted to try coffee and wanted to see like different flavors and different roast blends. So they bought the coffee maker, the filter, the nice kettle, different types of coffee. And then they said, maybe I tried it twice. And now all that stuff is just sitting on their shelf, right? They see all the money that they spent buying stuff for that hobby and they just didn't follow through with it. And then in older adults, the other symptoms we see are around chronic disorganization, right? Not just with their day, but with their belongings. People will say, my home is completely disorganized, my living room is a mess, my bedroom or closets are a mess. Trouble finishing project. So starting five different projects, but working 10% on each of them. So none of them is actually 100% completed. We maybe made progress in 5 to 10% in each task. Relationship strain, so that's where marital or couple counseling comes in to help people, understand what ADHD looks like, how it impacts the relationship, and how the other partner can support them. Feeling overwhelmed. So this sense of uneasiness. I have so much to do. There's so many tasks I have to do. There's so many things that are pending. I'm so overwhelmed. I just want to avoid everything. I want to use my safety behaviors like distraction, go do something else that's more fun and exciting versus this task that I need to get done, which is super important. And restlessness. So internal restlessness, like this sense of, I have to do it. I notice this anxiety. I notice tightness in my chest. And the more we avoid, the higher the restlessness gets, right? Because the pending tasks or things that we need to do are still lingering around. And the restlessness and anxiety just keeps building up. And People might be wondering, why was it missed when it comes to different types of mental health conditions? And, through my research, what I found was that back in 60s and 80s, the diagnosis was really just focused on boys who were disruptive in class, right? Boys who weren't sitting still, paying attention, talking, very hyperactive. So there was a very narrow criteria in order for teachers or caregivers even to really understand ADHD, um, especially in girls, very underdiagnosed because most girls don't present with that external hyperactivity. It's more internal. Internally going through anxiety, worry, sense of restlessness. Cultural messaging was another big factor. Back in that time, right? Like the messaging around it was try harder, you need to be more disciplined, you lack discipline, you're lazy, you're not good enough. It was more characterized as a personality or a trait flaw versus a symptom of a problem. High structure jobs tend to mask these conditions or symptoms. For example, at Hydra One, if it's a corporate setting, people know they have to show up at a certain time. They must perform at a certain level, right? There is the management layer, co-workers, team members who are there to help, who are there to support. The pressure of maintaining a job, right? That tends to help us stay motivated and just push through. So a lot of people will push through, kind of survive through these symptoms versus actually living a balanced life. And then when it comes to, the retirement piece, there's loss of routine, loss of structure. There's no more external deadlines, I hope. Um, in terms of hard, set deadlines, it's more so, okay, you're able to maybe breathe a little bit better, enjoy your retirement life a little bit better. But the con to that is the sense of not having that structure and routine to help you keep going. And oftentimes that can lead to further procrastination, forgetfulness, difficulty initiating your tasks. Another thing people will share with me is they spend too much time on social media. They will unfortunately just engage in scrolling or watching TV and spend majority of the day doing that. Even though they want to pick up, a hobby, go for a walk, see their friends, but without that routine, it seems like their, social and personal life seems to suffer. ADHD and retirement. So some of these things folks might experience, loss of the structure, increase in forgetfulness, difficulty planning days, starting projects and hobbies, but trouble with finishing them. May notice an increase in irritability or frustration. And this also can be contributed to transition, right? Going from stress, routine, structure, deadlines to transitioning to hopefully a more relaxed, mellow routine. Sometimes that transition itself can create symptoms around irritability and frustration, and folks just need time to adapt to their new normal. And spouses may notice the symptoms more, for instance, around, going to the grocery store and forgetting three of the five things that you were supposed to get, or forgetting appointments, missing, social outings, or organizing social outings. So our loved ones, spouses, children may notice these symptoms more. And then when it comes to ADHD, aging, and dementia, I'm providing you with a summary around it. So ADHD is more so a historical pattern of having executive functioning problems. So historically, like from school, as a child, at work, at internships. So this pattern is consistent throughout your life, pattern of having issues with organizing, doing things, motivating ourselves, following through, being on time. It's not something that just starts right now. Like we notice these patterns and challenges, and we either mask it or compensate. Normal aging is milder and slower process of forgetfulness. So we notice that, my brain maybe wasn't as sharp as it was before when I was working. I notice my reaction is maybe a little bit slower, or I need more time to do things. So it's more milder and we can pick up on it. And then dementia is a very progressive decline in our memory combined with confusion and disorientation. So it happens very quickly, very fast. And we know, like people around us will notice it very instantly. So ADHD, historically they're consistently missing things. Normal aging, it's a little bit slower. Our loved ones may pick up on things here and there, and it's aligned with our age. And then dementia is something that happens very fast in losing memory, unable to recall things, unable to follow through with things, but going from day to night. Like it's a very stark difference. And then when it comes to the emotional impact of these symptoms, many older adults we notice carry a lot of shame, right? Shame around something is wrong with me. Why am I not able to do these things? Something must be inherently wrong with me. Why can't I get it together? That is another thing we see and hear quite a bit. Another one that I don't have it there is people will say it's just easier for everyone else to get things done. But for me to do these things that should take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or half a day just lingers on and ends up taking a week to do simple tasks. Feeling lazy, right? That chronic self-criticism comes up. We start thinking about ourselves in a very negative light. Like, I must be just not smart enough or competent enough. I'm just lazy. I'm not good enough. And then with those negative self-criticism, we often notice people start feeling quite depressed and anxious. There's this sense of, further loss in motivation, loss in pleasure in things that they used to gain pleasure from, like social outings or from their hobbies. With the negative self-criticism, people tend to develop social anxiety as well, thinking, what are other people thinking of me? Are they judging me? Are other people thinking I'm lazy or I'm not, up to the standard? And of course, relationship strain, missing things, forgetting things can lead to more tension in relationship with our partner, even with our children, missing, events and outings. And financial impulsivity, that's a really big one, which ties with shame as well. Not being able to manage our finances appropriately or paying bills on time, missing bills, missing payments, which then ties back to shame of, I'm not good enough, I'm not living up to my standard or expectation. Other people are able to manage it, but I'm unable to manage it. And then when it comes to treatment options, typically with any condition, what we say is if it's having a significant impact on your day-to-day functioning, then it's worthwhile looking deeper into it. So, for instance, with the executive functioning like forgetfulness, missing things to a point that it's really impacting your life, right? It's impacting how you're functioning, how you're enjoying your life, then it's worthwhile talking to your doctor, a psychiatrist, or even a psychologist. So, with any condition, the golden standard is, we all have some symptoms of forgetfulness, motivation, sadness from time to time. But if it's consistent, it's impacting our day-to-day living and our quality of life, then it's worthwhile seeking a help for it and attention for it. And when it comes to treatment, people can get a diagnosis through various different routes. So your GP can do an assessment, psychologists can do an assessment, psychiatrists can do an assessment, and they can share with you, what's going on. Like if you have ADHD or if you have symptoms of anxiety, depression, trauma, OCD, so they can highlight what the condition is. And based on that, people will take medications to help them. So it could be stimulants or non-stimulants, and it really depends on the severity of the symptoms and if there's other co-occurring conditions with ADHD. And from research, cognitive behavior therapy is a very effective type of treatment for ADHD. It helps us understand ourselves a bit better, understand our thought pattern, how our thoughts impact the way we behave, how we present, and how to plan and organize ourselves a bit better. So CBT is a very helpful strategy for a lot of people if they're struggling with ADHD or anxiety or depression. Life coaching is something people have also tried where they're trying to learn practical tips to help stay organized. Other things include, that people have tried, which are quite helpful, visual calendars, watch, your phone timer to help us get that sense of time management, right? Help us stay organized and stay on track. Reminders are really helpful.
But I'm
Body
I'm
doubling.
making the okayu right now.
Body doubling means that you connect something you don't want to do with something you enjoy. So, for example, I don't like doing laundry. It's one of the tasks that is quite daunting, and I'll try to procrastinate as much as possible. So, either doing it with my sister, my little guy, or watching TV and, having my favorite show on and doing that task. So, when it comes to house chores or things that, we're able to connect with watching TV or talking to, spouse or sibling to help us get through that task faster. And then routine stacking. So, what that means is establishing a structure that is helpful now. For instance, waking up every day at the same time, having breakfast at the same time, engaging in hygiene at the same time. So, maintaining that routine can help our brain think, okay, now this is the time to do A, B, and C tasks. And then, getting all the hard stuff done and then having time to relax and enjoy the rest of the day. So sticking to a sleep routine is incredibly helpful. It keeps us on track. And then some more reflection questions, which Praveen will walk us through. So I'll pass it over to Praveen.
Yeah, just as we kind of wrap up for today, these are just some questions just to reflect on and think about. So looking back over your life, have you often been described as bright but disorganized or capable but inconsistent? Did you perform well in structured environments such as work, but struggle more once that structure was kind of once that structure was removed in retirement? Do you frequently start projects at home but have difficulty finishing them? Have you noticed any ongoing challenges with time management, such as underestimating how long tasks take or maybe running late, even when you care about that outcome? Or do you find yourself easily overwhelmed by paperwork, planning, or decision making, even though you've handled complex responsibilities during your career?
Awesome. And now we have Q&A time, so I'll just leave this slide up over here for folks to read, and we're more than happy to take any questions or comments, feedback.
Khadija and Paveen, thank you so much for that informative presentation. That was, I found it really interesting to understand, why it matters. And I guess I summarize that by saying just generally to improve the quality of your life if you are aware of it and can treat and address the condition best. Um, you were mentioning too about treatment and support, medication, CBD, coaching, environmental stacking. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how those treatments work, or what the medication does, or how CBD helps.
Yeah. So with medication, I'll talk about it in general sense because your GP or psychiatrists are specialized in it. But typically from research, what they say is that in our brain, there is different levels of norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. So with certain medications, it balances the level. So this way you're able to direct your attention, engage in the task without, even a single thing distracting you. One common thing I hear people say quite a bit is at work, I need music playing. That helps me focus. But the reality is what it does is it shuts down all the background conversation. Things happening on the side, people talking, the door open and closing, or, mail being delivered. All those little things just takes our mind away from the task. So with sound, what it does is it kind of numbs out all those sounds. So you're just able to focus on the task you're doing. Um, Oh, you're muted, Colin.
Would headphones be part of that too, I guess?
Yeah,
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 okay.
exactly, exactly. So it's not so much the music helping you focus, it's the music is shutting down all that external stimuli and just helping you, stay on task and do what you're doing. And when it comes to cognitive behavior therapy, it's very structured. So typically it's 8 to 10 sessions that people do, and every session builds on itself. And it shows us, okay, what are you thinking to yourself? When you're feeling overwhelmed, how do we manage that? When you have anxiety coming up, how do you manage that? So each session builds on itself and gives you this tool to use when you notice those feelings come up or those thoughts come up. It's very solution focused. It helps us see, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Okay, what's one thing I can do to help me move towards my goal? So strategies like that.
Just for everyone else, is there you're welcome to unmute yourselves and ask a question or post something post a question in the chats. Um, well, I'm just checking the chat here. We have a question from I think Naviz. How do you get tested for ADHD, or how would you get, I guess, assessed and diagnosed?
Yeah. So for ADHD, if you go to your family doctor and say, I'm noticing having challenges around my memory, focus, I would like to be tested for ADHD, your doctor can do an assessment. If they're not comfortable, they will send you to a psychiatrist. They'll fill out a referral form, send you to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist will take about an hour or so to go through your history, do some screening with you and share with you if you have ADHD or if it's any other condition. And like that's the public OHIP route. If
Right.
you would like to use the private route, there are multiple psychologists who do assessment. So reaching out to a psychologist in your community, if you like, letting them know, these are some of the challenges you're having, and they will do screening. So they screen you for your executive functioning, emotional reasoning, emotional behavior, and then do an interview with you and then share with you your diagnosis.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Um, these that was also saying, I did the music thing through school. Do you need a referral from, I guess, your GP to a specialist in order to take that next step?
For psychiatrists, yes, you do
Okay.
need a referral if you're using your physician, your doctor. Your doctor will fill out a form and refer you to a psychiatrist. But for psychologists, you don't need a referral because they're usually private pay. So they're not covered under OHIP, so they don't require a referral.
Okay. Um, uh, just taking a look at the chat here.
Yeah.
McLeana, I believe, is saying ADHD education is important to me for me, once I learned more about it, it answered a lot of questions I had about myself. Very good. Um, I, could you maybe explain to me, just a layperson from this perspective? You mentioned two different, I guess, professions, psychiatrists and psychologists. What is the distinction or difference between them?
So, psychiatrists attended medical school and specialized in mental health. So, they're able to diagnose and do lots of medication management. Psychologists completed their master's in clinical psychology and then did a PhD. So, with their PhD, they are a doctorate and they specialize in diagnosis and usually talk therapy. So, they don't necessarily talk or discuss medication, it's outside their scope. They
Okay.
specialize in assessment, do talk therapy, share with you what type of treatment modalities will be helpful.
I see. Okay. Okay. I just sort of, in my lay understanding, use the terms interchangeably, but obviously there's a
Yes,
difference, and they
yeah,
mean different things and reflect different uh, I guess learnings.
yeah.
Um, wow. Um, Lena's asking, are there any natural remedies for ADHD?
Yes, there are. So with natural remedies, like if you don't want to take the medication route, it's really honing in on your structure and routine and sleep. Sleep is a super important part of it. Making sure we wake up same time, go to bed same time, diet. So ensuring we eat lots of protein, we eat throughout the day, consuming, water, vitamins. In dialectical behavior therapy, there are 5 things you can do that will help you manage things even 2% better. And those are physical exercise, sleep, diet, treating any physical condition. So if we're sick, needing to take medicine for, headache, cold, treating those, and staying away from mood altering substances such as alcohol and cannabis. Those tend to exaggerate our symptoms even more.
Wow. I'm just making notes as you're saying this. It sounds like I think we've heard we've had some specialists in other areas, and we seem to have a pattern in the recommendations for a healthy life in our senior years. Uh,
Yes.
so many different parts of our life:
Yeah.
physical exercise, sleep, diet, uh, staying away from mood altering substances. Wow. Um, are there any specific? Lena's asking, are there any specific supplements or vitamins you could suggest that might be particularly relevant for ADHD?
From my perspective, nothing specific.
Okay.
If you're noticing any change in your vitamins or energy, it's a good idea to get your blood work done. Talk to your doctor, get a basic blood work done to see, is there enough iron, vitamin B12, vitamin D. People tend to suffer from those, especially in Canada, because we don't get that much sun. So I think doing a general blood work with your doctor can help see like if you're off on any of those levels, and then taking vitamins based on that would be most effective.
Okay. Oh, very good. Um, I noticed you mentioned too earlier the distinction between, I found it interesting, the distinction between ADHD versus normal aging versus dementia. And I found it interesting to have the distinction explained. And it's not to not so, I take away from that, it's not so much I should worry about the symptoms of normal aging because there's not a lot I can do about it. But the ADHD or dementia, there are actions I can take to, well, at least ADHD, I can take to deal with that, and the emotional impact that people have. I found that very interesting. Thank you. Um, other, I'm hearing from Lena. Thank you for your response. And Brenda saying great information, great answers to the questions. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or does anyone would like to unmute themselves or ask any questions?
I have a question. Is Bruno here?
Hi, Bruno.
Is there a subset of people that have ADHD and yet are highly effective? Like I can't imagine anyone that worked at Hydro and had these performance issues the way you're describing. So can people still be very effective and have ADHD and
Certainly.
not move on from project to project without completing their tasks?
Certainly. So with ADHD, we look at it as a spectrum, right? Like there's one end where people are really struggling to even just manage simple day-to-day tasks. And then there are people in the middle who may have some inefficiencies in their executive functioning. The other part of ADHD is that there's a lot of strengths to it. So for instance, folks with, maybe higher or severe ADHD, they're able to manage multiple tasks. They thrive in pressure environment because it forces them to really apply themselves, focus, concentrate. For instance, I had a client who worked in visual effects and she had to coordinate all the effects, manage 50 different schedules. She performed really well at her task. But when it came to home life, she was very drained, unable to take care of herself, go to gym, eat. She would forget eating, right? Like her basic
Wow.
self-care suffered. But at work, no one would know that, she's going through ADHD or having any challenges because she was performing phenomenally. So there's certainly pros and cons to it, like strengths and areas that, impact our day to day.
My other question was, is there any connection between HDD in the younger age and other neurological diseases later on, such as Parkinson and or dementia?
From research that I've done, I haven't seen a direct correlation between them. But there is a lot of research that shows how to keep our brain sharp, even as we retire or, as we age. So doing cognitive exercises. So, for example, puzzles. There's this app that I recommend to people. It's called Happy Neuron. If you download it on your phone, I don't think there's a fee to it. There might be $10 fee or so where they make you do like spatial exercises, math exercises, and people do it like 15, 20 minutes a day. So lots of research that shows, if we're using different parts of our brain consistently, then it can reduce the risk of, let's say, dementia or at least delay it. But there isn't a direct correlation between having ADHD and other different types of aging related disorders.
My last question. What's happening in the brain? Is it is it a function of not having enough dopamine or too much dopamine or what's missing?
So the levels of dopamine are low. And so people are seeking activities that give them a boost of dopamine. Whereas serotonin, norepinephrine, those are also misaligned. So your brain is seeking things that gives it pleasure or makes it exciting or fun. So therefore, when something is exciting, we can focus, get it done, is spend so much time doing it. But things that aren't exciting, we're having a hard time convincing ourselves to do that task. So it's missed levels of dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine.
Thank you.
No problem.
It's interesting to understand there's a physiological element to the condition as well.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just going through the chat here.
Yeah.
Naz is asking if you have a family member who has ADHD, is there anything to keep in mind when connecting with them? For example, if you had shared music to help focus, having coffee with them, or making sure it's in a quiet area. Any other behavioral tips or it might be or strategies?
In terms of supporting a loved one, I would say meeting them where they're at. Typically, like, for instance, knowing, early mornings may not be a good time to have a meetup. So scheduling things maybe later in the day tends to be quite helpful. I know I speak for myself with my clients who are neurodivergent. They will say, 9, 10 a.m. appointments just don't work. Can we do
Wow.
noon or 1 or 2? I do that for people. Another thing is, checking in with them can be quite helpful, like a day before meeting up, for instance, like if it's a friend or a loved one, right? Like, does this time and date still work for you? This is the location. Does it still work for you? So kind of giving them a little bit of a reminder. So those type of things provide definitely more support.
Oh, thank you. I'm just going through the chat, but while I'm doing that, is there anyone else that wanted to ask a question verbally or uh,
Hi, Colin.
uh,
It's Karen. I have a question.
go ahead, Karen.
Um, could you talk about the hereditary, like, is it hereditary and kind of pass through multiple generations? Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yes, absolutely, Karen. So
Thank you.
there is a hereditary factor with ADHD, and from the research I did, it is one below height. So it's quite there's a strong correlation between that. So in families, if mom or dad, aunt, uncle, or cousin, sibling, if one of them have a diagnosis of ADHD, there's a good chance that other members have it as well. So without
Wow.
going into too much technical information, it's this one down from height. So height is, of course, quite, determined by your parents' genetics. So it's literally one below that.
That's
Sorry, I
interesting.
didn't really understand that concept. That was kind of new to me, one below height. So do you
Yeah.
mean like, height is sort of the most common thing that's
Yeah,
hereditary, and this is the second most common thing that's hereditary? Is that what?
almost. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
no worries.
Lena's mentioning comment. He just sounds like everyone is on the ADHD spectrum to some degree. It helps to know there's some kind of normalcy with everyone. Um, He was asking, would you say not to get involved with too much stimulation if ADHD tendencies are present?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, if it's okay?
Lena, would you like to comment on that or?
I was thinking if you're feeling stressed or you're in a situation where you just can't seem to handle something, should you just maybe just remove yourself completely, or should you just try to deal with it? I guess it depends on a situation basis, honestly.
Yes, of course. But, typically what we suggest to people is we have a scale, right? Like, there is level one where it's okay, I can handle it. Level five is I'm so overwhelmed, I can't even think straight, right? I'm so overwhelmed, my body is feeling hot, I'm sweating, I feel red, like I can see myself getting red. We say take a break, remove yourself from that situation, ground yourself, right? It's okay to take a break, to just pause that for a moment. And then going back to it when we're feeling more cool, calm, and collected. So there's this concept called window of tolerance. So it's a window we all have where we feel cool, calm, collected. We're able to think, we're able to respond. Um, when we're overstressed, we go into our fight or flight mode, right? So we want to fight the situation or we want to flight it because we don't know how to handle it. It is so overwhelming. Maybe I'm feeling so angry, frustrated, feeling very disorganized, feeling out of control. So we're outside of our window of tolerance. So when that happens, it's best to take a break, do some deep breathing. Some people will put an ice pack on their neck to calm them down, right? To relax their body. Some people will go for a walk. They'll take a walk, go outside, just get some fresh air, and then come back to that situation with a little bit of a fresher mind.
Okay, thank you. It's that's pretty common with almost any kind of a stressful situation. So ADHD is sounding to me like it's, well, I'm not going to say normal, but it can be typical for a lot of things. It's just you have to gauge yourself where you are on that and get help for it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And it's the pattern, right? Is it a one-off or it's a consistent pattern of having challenges in those buckets I mentioned around your executive functioning? So that's the best way to kind of look at it in the sense of like, is it a one-off thing or have I always had issues with these challenges where it's impacting my relationship, work, and personal life?
Okay.
Khatiza, you mentioned the 50s and the 60s. You know what the treatment was in the 60s and the 50s? It was called the yardstick.
Oh, oh boy.
I was thinking shock treatments.
There's a hand up from, I think, Navaz. Is that yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Is there a correlation between ADHD and schizophrenia?
It's schizophrenia, not that I found in my research, no.
Any other mental conditions? I guess because I'm talking about my younger brother. Up until the age of 20, he was really focused, really talented, really responsible. And then in the gap between 20 and 23, he went haywire. So because I came to Canada when he was 20 and he came to Canada when he was 23, and it was a night and day difference.
Yeah. And the that component, Nawaz, it's a different category of
Oh,
disorders that people go through and they have different onset. With
okay.
ADHD, what happens is it co-occurs. Like you can have ADHD and anxiety. You can have ADHD and OCD. Trauma is something I see quite a bit with people, like people who've gone through, very terrible situations in their life, childhood. Those people like traumatic events that you experience does adapt your brain. So your brain is more prominent to tuning out, losing focus, dissociating. So trauma usually tends to be the root cause of symptoms of ADHD.
Interesting. Wow. In the chat, Naz is asking, do you find women are diagnosed with ADHD when older versus men that are diagnosed earlier? Is that the right takeaway from the collection of symptoms you were describing?
Yes, women unfortunately tend to be underdiagnosed, missed, and often diagnosed with anxiety.
Hmm.
Generalized anxiety disorder, that's something we commonly see and hear. And then later in adulthood, they're able to, give records from work, right? Fill out those certain questionnaires that show how work is being impacted, pull up past report cards. Someone who's close to them is able to kind of provide more information, and then practitioners will see, okay, it's not just anxiety, ADHD is playing a role.
Putting the pieces together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
exactly.
Okay. Question from Lena: with hormone levels lower in later years, does that have an effect on ADHD?
So a lot of women who go through perimenopause or menopause, they will say my rage is high, right? That emotion regulation gets impacted quite a bit. So we did have lots of people come through the clinic and say, I'm going through perimenopause or menopause, and I notice my rage, anger, frustration is through the roof. I need to be assessed. And
Hmm.
typically what happens is they're either masking or just kind of getting through those symptoms. And then when that shift happens, they notice the masking wasn't working anymore, right? Like they're unable to cope with the
Oh,
changing hormones. And then that's when they notice, okay, I do have ADHD and I need to find alternative ways of coping with it. So menopause, perimenopause can certainly push the person over the edge and really highlight the struggles.
oh wow. I don't see any more in the chat. I think you answered the question about one before height, so that's great. Wow, is there anyone else that had any questions? Well, we have these wonderful experts with us. Wow. Well, I guess I can just say some concluding remarks. Khadija and Parveen, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I found it fascinating, very informative to learn more and be better informed about this subject. I think we have some functional takeaways that will help us live better in our retirement, even if we don't have ADHD. And I really appreciate being better informed and you taking the time to speak to us. For everybody, plan is to make the recording available within the next 48 hours. I'll send out an email when it's posted on our YouTube channel to view. Um, in this morning's email, you have the resources that Khadija provided yesterday, so thank you so much. I'll just make a mention that we have registrations open for our spring luncheon, which is happening on May 5th. Our first bus trip of the year, which is June 2nd to St. Jacob's Country Playhouse. We're seeing an Agatha Christie play, and we have a Zoom seminar about wills and estate planning next month. That all are available for us to take part in and be make the most of our retirement. So again, thank you so much, Khadija and Paveen, and this has been a great presentation.
Awesome. Pleasure is all ours. And I hope to do more lunch and learn in the future with you all. If you enjoyed this one or, found it informative, very happy to collaborate in the future as well. And thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll take care, everybody. Have a good rest of the day and no falling in the slippery ice outside.
Yes.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.